Welcome everybody. It is the beginning of May for those of you who are keeping track. Welcome to the BEONAIR Network of Media Schools webinar series, our professional series, where twice a month we invite you to join us as we explore interesting topics that are really going to help you grow in the areas that you're currently looking to develop and maybe give you some extra tips if you're already here. So just a quick announcement for those of you who are watching us via YouTube, go ahead and take a second to like and subscribe. And today's webinar will be recorded in segments, so you will be getting a message to tell you to like the next segment so that you can get that as well. And please, we encourage you to share this with your friends and anybody else who might want to grow from this series on podcasting. We are going to keep the video off, and we do ask that you keep your microphones off. It really helps in keeping the noise level down. But we would like to encourage you to engage in any Q&A that you might have. So please take advantage of the chat. If you look at the top of your screen, there's a chat bubble. You can put any questions in there. And as we're going through today's session, Philip will be moderating, and we will be looking in that chat to ask your questions. And we'll also call on you, and you can open up your mic and ask the questions yourself if you would like to do that. The Q&A is so important to what's going on here because really we build this around you, and we want everybody to have that opportunity to ask questions, that you might be thinking of so that you can really learn and grow in this discussion. So who's with us today? I know you've tuned in for podcasting. We're going to be covering a how-to on building your podcasting brand and the tools you'll need to get started in your podcasting studio. We have Philip returning with us. Philip Bufford is one of our fabulous instructors at our Columbus, Ohio Media School campus. He's a radio personality, owner of Unplugged magazine. He has a wonderful web series that he writes and he produces. He does a myriad of things, and he makes time to be our moderator, which we really appreciate. He's super, super terrific at that role. Joining us is Sean Anthony, another one of our instructors at the Ohio Media School located in Columbus. Sean is a radio personality. He's on air with Radio 1. He is also a syndicated talk show, and his talk show is called The Iron Man of Radio. He has many, many years in the industry. The two of them, their experience in the industry would equal a very seasoned person put together. So we're really excited to have the two of them to share their expertise with you and help you to grow. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to the experts. Phil is going to keep his pulse on the time so that we make sure everybody has an opportunity to be a part of this, and sit back and enjoy. And when we're all done, this will be a recorded segment that you will be able to take advantage of listening to again. So Philip, thank you. Sean, thank you. And away you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Linda. Again, welcome everybody to the BEONAIR Forum. My name is Philip Bufford. I'll be your facilitator today. A couple of things to keep in mind is if you have questions, make sure to type them in the chat. We'll be monitoring that. And then when the opportunity comes for you to ask your question, we want you to ask your question and then stop talking so that Sean can answer the questions for you. We'll allow you to do a follow-up, ask that question, and then again, stop talking so Sean can answer. And we want to make sure that we follow by that so everybody gets an opportunity to ask questions and get answers to what they're looking for. With that being said, let's get this party started. We have Sean Anthony in the building. I am glad to say, I think I can say you're my friend. Am I your friend?
We're BFFs, man.
That works. That works. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got Sean Anthony, radio personality, and he does a lot of awesome things. So, Sean, I'm going to give you the floor. Go ahead and tell people just who you are, what you do, and let's just start off where people can find you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Philip Bufford. Thank you, Linda. Thank you to the Ohio Media School for this opportunity. And thank you to Rhonda. She reached out to me about this opportunity. So I'm very excited to spend this time with you guys to talk about branding, talk about podcasting. Briefly about me. I've I've been doing radio for close to 30 years now, and started off in Columbus, Ohio. And from there, I went on to Detroit, did radio in Detroit, Washington, D.C., Richmond, Virginia. And these were hip hop stations that I did the night show for. And while in Virginia, I started doing a talk show Sunday mornings on the local radio station in Richmond. And then that evolved into syndication. In the year of 2013, the show, it was a Sunday morning show that evolved into what is now called Flow of Wisdom. And that's my syndicated talk show that got picked up in 2013 by a company by the name of Genesis Communications Network, or GCN. And that network carries Flow of Wisdom on radio stations across the country. And throughout the duration of my career, I've also been in acting. I'm an actor. I produce, and I do voiceover work. I do audio production for clients. I've done audio books for clients. I'm pretty busy. I've been staying pretty busy and creating different streams of income throughout the multimedia spectrum. So a few years ago, about 5 years ago, I relocated back to Ohio, and that's when I began teaching at the Ohio Media School, the Columbus location. And I got back on the air locally on Magic 95.5. So if you're ever in Columbus, Ohio, tune into 95.5. I have a weekend show there where we play, all the cool R&B and some of the hip hop as well. But in addition to that, man, like I said, I do acting, film, voiceover work, and audio production.
Awesome. And so let's just get right into it. You mentioned while you were in, is it Richmond or DC, when you started doing syndication? Richmond. So we talk about syndications. We hear the word spoken quite frequently. Can you explain what syndication is for our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Philip. Syndication is when, for example, I'm sure we've all heard of the Breakfast Club, right? Charlemagne the God. You may have heard the Steve Harvey Morning Show. You may have heard Ricky Smiley. I'm sure you've all heard of the Oprah Winfrey Show when she was on television, right? Well, Oprah produced and recorded her show in Chicago. The Breakfast Club, they do their morning show in New York City on a radio station called Power 105. We hear it locally here in Columbus, Ohio. We hear it in Cincinnati. We hear it in Cleveland. That's syndication, when you produce and broadcast a show in one location, and then it is syndicated to other markets. And that's what we call it in the industry. Markets is another word for cities. So the Breakfast Club is done live in New York City, but we hear it in Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Houston, so on and so forth. So that's what syndication is. Now, Flow of Wisdom is not as big as the Breakfast Club. I'm not in as many markets. However, I can be heard. I'm on radio stations on the West Coast in California, Salt Lake City, Utah, just to name a few. Guam. It's pretty cool when you get syndicated, because your reach is broadened, and you get to hear from people that listen to your show all over the country. So that, in a nutshell, is what syndication is.
So following up with that, then we've got people here that have a desire to be an on-air personality in podcasting and radio. The million-dollar question that some of them, if they're not thinking of it, they will think of it. How do I get to be syndicated?
Wow, that's a great question. First of all, get enrolled at the Ohio Media School. We're going to teach you some fundamentals, okay? Learn to be a pro from a pro. How to get syndicated. So here's a real trials and tribulation story. In the early stages of my radio career, when I was on the radio on Power 107.5 here in Columbus, it was like a goal of mine to be syndicated. And I did not know how to do it. And there was no blueprint that I found at that time on how I can get syndicated. So anyway, fast forward, I started doing this talk show in Richmond. It's gaining traction. It's gaining popularity. And I had relationships with an individual who was the operations manager and program director at a small radio station in North Carolina. It was really a city that was on the border of Virginia, Southern Virginia, and North Carolina. I had a conversation. I said, "Hey, man, can you rebroadcast my show? I do it Sundays live. I'll chop it up, reproduce it, and produce it to where it sounds locally from North Carolina." He said, "Sure." So that was the first step. Okay, so my show, I'm airing it in Richmond, and then I was rebroadcasting it in a small radio station in North Carolina. Then that's when the juices started flowing. I'm like, yo, I can take this, I can pitch this show, shop this show to be syndicated. So one of the things that I did is I've had a habit in the past of stretching myself too thin, right? Because we're constantly multitasking. We're in the multimedia, right? And you notice I said I'm an actor, producer, I'm doing this, that, and the third. So I took like 1 year. Somebody got to mute their mic for me, please. Everybody mute your mics. I took 1 year at least where I just put the blinders on and didn't focus on anything else outside of my regular radio show that I did, and the night show in Richmond. I took about a year and just sought after getting syndicated. So what I did, I created a press kit, right? A media press kit. So what is that? This is like, I mean, I don't know, how do you describe what a press kit is? It's a presentation that you would submit to companies or decision makers to, it's a snapshot of what it is that I did. So it was about, I had my bio, I had pictures in there, I had some statistics, some analytics and everything incorporated with the show, what the show was about. And I submitted that along with a demo of taking clips and excerpts of the show and just started emailing it, calling people, doing research, spending hours upon hours of researching companies that syndicated shows. I would find the shows that I listened to that were syndicated, who's the company behind them. So I would do the Google's searches, find that company. Then I would find the person who I thought was in charge, reach out directly to that person, cold calling that person, leaving voicemails, emailing them. I just did whatever it took to get noticed. And one thing I noticed, I was getting responses. So I was taking notes of things that was working and things that was not working. When I would get a response from someone, I'm like, okay, this is working. Let me try this again. And I just kept getting responses, and people were saying, yo, this sounds good. This is interesting. This, that, and the third. I was getting good feedback, and they would, most of the responses were just, this is not a fit. The nature of the show is not a fit. We don't have any openings right now, and so on and so forth. So it was literally like at least a year and a half till finally I found Genesis Communications Network, and I started looking at their show lineup and some of the hosts and the topics that they talked about. I was like, you know what? I just felt it in my gut. This was a good fit. I reached out to the program director, sent him my press kit, sent him a demo of the show. He liked it. He said, look, I like your show. We're going to add you, but you got to wait. It's a long list of other shows that I'm already prioritizing, and I'll get yours on as due time. So that was like 2012. Notice when I said my show didn't get picked up till 2013, that's how long I had to wait, man. So it was a very tedious process. Like I said, it was no blueprint that I knew of. It was just me constantly reaching out to people myself and putting my blinders on and not focusing on anything else for that particular time.